their mental health and health-related behaviors such as diet, physical activity, and sleep. A pediatrician from Canada changed his mind about the lockdown because of, quote, the significant collateral damage due to the response to the pandemic adversely affecting many millions of people with poverty, food insecurity, loneliness, unemployment, school closure, interrupted health care. Ironically, if you support the well-established vaccines that target much more serious diseases than COVID, you should be alarmed at the estimate that in Africa, for every COVID death prevented by the lockdown, as many as 80 children die due to missing routine immunizations. According to David Beasley, food insecurity due to the lockdown is a major crisis throughout the third world, with 12 million food insecure people in Latin America alone. So much for us being the right-wingers. Who's caring about the third world people? The poor people are dying. We are. How is that not a crime against humanity? Since all these consequences are foreseeable, the essential element of any indictment, mens rea, a guilty or malicious mind, is present. So yes, intentional disruption of millions of people's access to health care is a crime against humanity. Remember what the great Hugo wrote: increasing the magnitude of a crime cannot be its diminution. Small businesses throughout the United States and the world were shut down, and many of them have been permanently destroyed, while large corporations remain open and gain fabulous wealth. And we're the right-wingers, right?
Right.
Phony baloney crap from the left. Small firms owned by African Americans were hit the hardest. Fortune magazine reported that about 100,000 small businesses were permanently shut down because of the lockdown. That means that the lifetime dreams of 100,000 Americans were destroyed. How is that not a crime against humanity? Thank you. This economic, give that man a cigar. This economic wreckage devastated millions of families and millions of lives, resulting in suicides, depression, drug and alcohol abuse, and illness. The strong connection with the unemployment rate and life expectancy is well established. Worldwide, according to the UN Food Program, as many as 400 million full-time jobs have been destroyed, and the 2 billion people who work in the informal economy, often living hand-to-mouth, are threatened. Where's the left on these issues? Where's the left? You care so much. To pay for the idiotic and failed lockdown, the state stole trillions from our grandchildren by having the Fed fabricate money out of thin air. Thus, they took the economic futures away from young people who cannot even vote yet to pay for the failed lockdown. Young people who have minimal risk from COVID have also suffered in too many ways to count. The lockdown is a policy that explicitly sacrifices the young for the old, given the huge disparity in how the virus affects each age group. Nothing like this has ever happened in American history. The young are being deprived of their youth, their social life, their education, their sports, which, by the way, is a medical necessity, particularly for young girls. It's a medical necessity, not just a sport. It's lifelong health. Their arts, their graduation. My daughter graduated in her bedroom from college. Their careers, their job market. This is wrong, indeed cruel. Combined with stealing trillions from their futures via Fed borrowing. Again, I got up at 3:30. How isn't the lockdown a crime against young humanity? Almost all of the crimes of the lockdown fit comfortably into the well-known crime against humanity known as persecution, defined as any severe or willful deprivation of rights of an identifiable group. In this case, the entire American people. As some, couple more minutes, thank you. As some of the aspects of the lockdown, such as mandatory and totally ineffective masking, wind down, our controllers seek to continue to harass us in other more insidious ways. We are subjected to 24/7 propaganda to get vaccinated, and there is more and more pressure being applied to force people to get vaccinated, force them to donate their bodies to science while they're still breathing. For example, many state universities are mandating vaccines for students with a minimal risk of COVID or who have already had COVID and therefore are naturally immune. Let's consider the attention the power elite and the mainstream media give to a thoroughly one-sided pimping of vaccines compared to prevention and treatment. This is the dog that didn't bark. This is the Freudian slip. hardly ever hear politicians in the mainstream media talk about prevention, such as combating the obesity epidemic or getting more vitamin D through outdoor activities and supplements. The connection between the risk of death and obesity and vitamin D deficiency is undeniable. One study found that obesity triples the risk of being hospitalized for COVID. A study from the University of Chicago found that high vitamin D levels may protect against COVID, especially for black people. The power elite's response? Close the gyms and the parks, keep people inside, and say nothing to encourage these and other forms of prevention. Their silence is violence, and no doubt has killed many thousands of people. Is this not a crime against humanity? Why doesn't the power elite follow the science? Why doesn't the left follow the science?
They write the science.
Because they can't get rich or powerful for prevention, and the power-hungry thugs cannot care less that their propaganda is killing people. Giving people more control over their lives through prevention and effective treatments would reduce fear and deprive the politicians of their greatest weapon to extort ever more totalitarian power. Nothing could be allowed to interfere with their all-consuming 24/7 obsession with Big Pharma's vaccines. Big Pharma, of course, spread tens of millions around to buy politicians and media outlets. Obviously, money and power explains their obsession, but consider this. The lockdown failed and caused massive destruction. And a crime against humanity has no statute of limitation. Ever. Until they die. We learned that from World War II.
Absolutely.
So, the masks failed, except as a symbol of their power over us. They are desperate to convince people that their vaccines ended the crisis to cover up from their prior crimes during the lockdown. Almost done. Thank you for your patience. The power elite is slowly and surely and quietly setting the stage for vaccine passports. And they bully more and more people to get vaccinated. As they bully more and more people to get vaccinated, if it can even be called a vaccine, they will play the game of divide and conquer and start to bully the minority into giving in to Big Pharma's biology experiment. Thus, they plan to move towards internal passports, step by step, so we barely notice. Progressives gave us external passports during wartime. Thank you, Woodrow Wilson, you bum. Naturally, they will also try to impose internal passports as an emergency measure. When it comes to mandatory vaccines, we are no longer arguing from analogy or comparison that the lockdown involved crimes against humanity. Forcing people to undergo medical experiments has literally been classified as a crime against humanity in the Nuremberg Code.
Yes.
This is a fight we dare not lose. As catastrophic as it would be to be forced to donate your body to science and Big Pharma for an experimental so-called vaccine, a precedent will then be established that you will be forced to take any and all future experimental vaccines or risk the slow death of a house arrest. In my view, any form of internal passports is on the short list of triggers for active resistance that I listed in direct citizen action. Internal passports are essentially a declaration of war on the American people and a repudiation of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and you will know what to do.
Absolutely.
Resist.
Absolutely.
Resist.
Absolutely.